What's good, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. It is December 28th, and we are in that little bit of an interesting period of time between Christmas and New Year's, and 2022 is poised to be a big year for the band that we have on the podcast today, and I'm not going to lie, this episode is just... oh, God. This episode is absolutely fantastic. This is one that, this is right up there with some of the greats. The episode I did with Modern Day Escape, Along Came a Spider, the one I did with Erica Leanne, the one I did with anyone I've done with Joy Varela from Varsity, Page 67, all of the, this is just absolutely fantastic. This is just mind-blowingly awesome. So before we get jumping into this episode, I want to thank our sponsors first, Phoenix Fitness. Yep, Christmas is over. We're hitting the new year. And I know a lot of people, they're going to want to, hit the gym and hit those New Year's resolutions up because it's always the classic New Year's resolution. Get in shape, get fit, lose weight, whatever your goal might be. And for me, I still love going to mosh pits, so I'm always in the gym as well. So we're going to want to be in there, pumping iron, and running and biking and rowing and hitting the Stairmaster and swimming, all that good stuff. But we also want to make sure that we prepare right and that we recover right so that when it comes to, hitting those fitness goals, we are able to do that, and that's where Phoenix Fitness comes in. They will take care of all your fitness needs, supplement-wise, in terms of pre-workouts, both stim and stim-free. You guys already know I go with the stim-free stuff because I don't need any more. I'm already crazy enough as it is. They also have different BCAA recovery compounds, proteins for your morning, nighttime, and after workout, creatines, natural testosterone boosters, multivitamins, literally almost anything you might need in terms of achieving your fitness goals. Supplement-wise, Phoenix Fitness has for you. So our listeners get 15% off with the code MSOTD at checkout. So thank you, Phoenix Fitness, for that. Second is custom debuts. Now, with this band that we have on the podcast today, I was just going to tell you what it is. It's Rain City Drive. So custom debuts, what they're able to do is they're able to take these custom posters and they're able to take a band and a song or a band and an album and pick a custom poster that up to your liking. So I might say, let's say Talk to a Friend by Rain City Drive, formerly known as Slaves, and we'll put it up there, and they will put the lyrics on the poster in a really cool way. Or I can say, take their album Two Better Days, and they'll put together the album artwork and a track listing on a poster in a really interesting way, and they'll send me a proof within 48 hours, and if I don't really care what they put together, I can give them edit ideas and give them changes I'd like to see, and they will come back to me with a new proof, and once I'm satisfied, boom, they will send it to me. It'll be a poster I can put on, normal poster paper, that you see all the crazy posters I might have up here. If you've ever seen them around here, I've got the Iceland Kills, Rise Against, Falling Reverse one. There's a Day to Remember one back there. All of them. Or it can be like a canvas print or even an aluminum print. How sick is that? Great way to just show off all your musical fandom friends, all that good stuff. So our listeners get 10% using the code CPP10 at checkout for custom debuts. Link to the podcast. Thank you. And now, the band is Rain City Drive, formerly known as Slaves, but now it's Rain City Drive. And the frontman for the band, the lead singer, Matt McAndrew, is on the podcast, and this podcast will literally blow your mind in terms of you get to hear the whole backstory of what the inspiration was behind the name, how they ended up with the name Rain City and then Rain City Drive, how they ended up working within their new music, why they might release a lot of these new songs off their new record as singles, and a bunch of different crazy stuff that will let you get into the mind of Matt of the band Rain City Drive. Just everything you want to know about the new record, everything you want to know about, where Rain City Drive is going. This podcast is one that will help you out, understand that, get you psyched for the record, and also there's some cool tips and tricks in here when it comes to potential marketing perspectives that you can use in your own daily life. It is awesome. This is one of my favorite episodes I think I've ever recorded of all time. I've been saying that a lot because, honestly, these episodes just keep getting better and better. I love every single minute of this one. I hope you guys do as well. Enough with me talking. Let's get to it. Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. I am not going to lie. I was really excited to make this happen because this band's, their previous record, To Better Days, I finally got a chance to listen to it in 2021, even though it came out in 2020. I'm like, my God, why did I sleep on these guys for so long? It is fantastic. And as of right now, brand new name for the band, brand new song called Cutting It Close. It is out now. So please welcome Matt from the band Rain City Drive. So Matt, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right now. Just a little bit on the sore side body wise, because the previous day before we recorded this, I was in a deathcore mosh pit for Brand of Sacrifice and Chelsea Grin, so I'm kind of feeling it a little bit today.
Nice. Where was the show?
It was at the Apollo Theater in Belvedere, Illinois, which is just right outside of Rockford, Illinois.
Okay, cool. Nice, man. Hell yeah.
And I'll be back down there today for Atreyu and Crown the Empire. So
damn,
yeah.
Busy man.
Hey man, it's live music is back. There's no stopping it right now.
True. Exactly. I know. Yeah, I think fans and bands alike are just excited to be back at it. So it's good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys are the exact same way, because I know you guys played a set on the Thursday day at Blue Ridge this year. Was that the only show you guys have played so far this year?
No, so we did like a little, like a smaller US run around Blue Ridge and Rebel Rock. And then we just got back from a little UK run as well, which was pretty sick.
Oh, you're right. Did a little UK run? That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was like seven shows over there. Yeah, it was like previously, as far as me being in the band, like we had only done, I think, a couple dates over there. I know the guys have been over there without me, obviously, but yeah, I think we did like Manchester, which was our first show together where we all met, which we can talk about. And then we did London, but this time I feel like I got a better lay of the land over there and like seeing all it's funny because, obviously like the UK's, it's like as big as a state or something over here. It's just really tiny, but it's there's like different little pockets and different accents and different, vibes everywhere. I feel like it's cool.
Kind of like if you're playing in Florida, it's like, okay, you got Miami, you got Tampa, you got Jacksonville, Daytona, Orlando, you've got the upper part with Tallahassee, you got the Panhandle. England,
yeah.
Again, it's not, Florida, but it's kind of got the same nature in terms of different regions, different, dialects in terms of accent. So it's all kind of encompassing in that.
Yeah, and like it's funny because in terms of touring for them, because it's so small, they think like, oh, we got a 4-hour drive tonight, boys. It's like that's like really long, and we're used to. I feel like if we have to drive like 8 hours to the next gig overnight, that's like okay, pretty like par for the course, and like that was our longest drive was I think Glasgow to London. But there's a lot of shows over this. It's like really really close. So we're like, dude, if you guys would hate it over in America, or Australia is the same. It's like really spread out, just like the actual markets you can play, like so.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of different bands from Australia, and they're like always talk about how it's like on the east coast of the country. I mean, you've got all the major cities there, but it's again, Australia is a huge country. It's gonna be massive. More spread out.
It's massive, and like in between the big markets that you'd play, it's just kind of desolate in terms of like gigs or something, So
it's like nothing major city,
yeah,
and you gotta go through all of that.
Totally, yeah. A bunch of kangaroos, another venue. Okay, we good, yeah.
Have you guys played in Australia at all with you and the band, or?
Yeah. So that was my second tour with the guys. We did that first tour, which was UK, Europe, and then we did Australia, then we did the States, then we did the States again. Then I think we went into lockdown, and then just doing these festivals and back in the UK where it all started. So it's cool. It was kind of fun that we were back in the UK for the name change too. So it's sort of like kind of full circle. Of like firsts, you know what I mean? Yeah,
it all comes together in a really weird way because, like you said, the first shows that you end up playing with the band were over in the UK. The first shows after the name change over in the UK. So it just all kind of makes sense. And if I read it correctly, when I was kind of going through stuff in the band, basically trying to do my homework to make sure I was kind of on the up and up, when it came to the name change over to Rain City Drive, it all started with inspiration from that first show you played over in the UK when you joined the band, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So to give people a little backstory, if they don't know, I was a very, very last minute addition to that tour. The guy's former vocalist, Mr. Jonathan Craig, kind of bailed out last minute, and he just flew home, and so they were at the airport and we're like, well, we need a singer, we want to do this tour, they like obviously there's a lot that goes into tour and, you know, getting everything organized and whatever. And it's like a big expense and everything. And they were like, shit, like, what are we going to do? And they were waiting to see if they were going to go through like final security, but like if they have a vocalist, and they're basically just kind of calling everybody. They're calling their booking agent who like sings a little bit, and they're calling other people, like, just who do we know that could possibly fill in and just kind of make this work, you know? And also, you know, Johnny's super well known in the scene and like revered for his singing ability. So it was like, it was kind of a tough thing. It's like, who are we going to get to fill in like last minute? Long story short, I'm good friends with my buddy Kevin Thrasher from Escape the Fate, who was headlining that tour with Slaves at the time. And he was like, you should hit up my buddy Matt. And so, yeah, they had like 15 minutes to like check out like a little clip of me singing on The Voice. I checked out like 30 seconds of Star Explode and was like, okay, there's no screaming. Sure, yeah, I'll do it. And that was it. Like, I had like, it was so last minute, and my passport expired that day. So I had to get a rush passport like the next day, and we missed the first show, which I was happy about because it gave me a little more time to try to learn some lyrics. But yeah, we had never heard of each other before. Like, I didn't know who Johnny was. I didn't know who Slaves were. They didn't know who I was. And we met like in front of the venue under a bridge a couple hours before that first show. No sound check, anything. And yeah, and it was really weird. And I was just making up a bunch of lyrics. And but it went really well. Like, my worst fear was that I was going to show up after having told the guys that I could do it and that I would do it, you know, and then they were just going to be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you don't have any of these songs memorized, you know, because I had nothing memorized. Like, it was so last minute. I was trying, you know, just listening to the songs on loop. I took a red eye over there, you know, but they were just super gracious and cool and welcoming and just like happy that I was there and that they were doing the tour. And by the second show, we kind of knew that was the band. As weird as that is, we were all just like, this is cool. And like, I like had my project with Thrasher, and that's cool because it's like, that's like a little duo and it's easy. But like, I never saw myself being in like a band again, like a traditional, you know, group like that again. That's how I started out coming up being in bands. But yeah, so I was like, oh, but this is sick. Like, these guys are great. I love the music, and I guess they were happy with me, and it was like, that was it. Anyways, so that's our crazy story.
So I knew like the basis of the story when it came to Johnny, when it came to, you know, you joined the band sort of last minute for that tour. I didn't know all of that entailed, from them basically just hearing something from you for, you know, maybe 15 minutes, you hearing a song for 30 seconds, having to get a rush passport just to get over there. And then by the second show, it was just like, it felt like it was natural. That is that is an absolute insane story, my friend. Yeah,
it was literally, I think for both of us, we listened to like a 30-second clip of the other person. It was like, okay. And, you know, I was like, I think it was like 15 minutes from the time they first called me to me trying to figure out if I was really going to do it. And I was like, damn, this is crazy. It's always been a dream of mine to tour internationally. I'd done a lot of touring stateside with my solo stuff, but I was just like, just seemed like a really cool opportunity. So I was like, sure. And it's, you know, it's funny too. I always say, like, usually in music, I guess in the entertainment business in general, it's like you find out about some opportunity, and that's like the hard thing, is to get an opportunity, you know, and you got to audition, or you're like, oh, I'm going for this, or there's this thing that I'm like really shooting for, right? And it's like, you try to find out whether you got it or not. But this was like, this opportunity was the polar opposite, and that it just came totally out of left field. I wasn't planning on it. I wasn't like hoping for it. It was like, I didn't even know that it, you know, I was like teaching a piano lesson that day, just like chilling. And Thrasher's like blowing up my phone, being like, dude, you want to do this UK tour? And I was like, what? Like, what the hell is going on? Like, it was just kind of fell into my lap. And it's the thing that's, you know, like me doing The Voice, like my first big break, like being in this band was like my next big break. And it's become a thing where I was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, this is really cool. So now it's like the main thing that I do. as an artist as like a person, you know, and it's like where I put most of my energy and time and passion into. So it's like, it's really weird that it came out of total left field. Like I wasn't even thinking about it, you know?
That is insane. And like just hearing that story, there are two things that kind of come to mind for me. One thing that my mom loves to say, it says when you have opportunities present themselves, it's, you know, use your wisdom, but take them as they come, because sometimes they just don't end up coming. Just, you never know what might happen with them. And the worst thing that can happen is you just right back to where you were at the start. So you kind of took that idea and just ran with it. Another one is, this is from a movie that came out like 20 years ago. It was one called Rat Race, and it wasn't all that well known of a movie. But there was one quote in there that I remember was, good things take time, but great things happen all at once. And look at basically what that sort of from you teach, like doing a piano lesson to within, you know, a couple of days, all of a sudden you're doing your second show with the band, and it felt like it was a natural fit and it was all set and ready to go. And now you're back to being in more of that traditional band style and doing this whole entire thing with music in a whole different perspective.
Yeah, just like never thought I would too. And it's cool, like a little bit of backstory on me again. It's like, I grew up doing like more kind of like indie bands. And then I got really into Bob Dylan in college, and I was like singer-songwriter mode, hardcore, had like a John Mayer phase. Did the voice, had a lot of success and fun with that. But I got into Sempiternal by Bring Me in like 2013. And I just loved that record so much. I went to see him live, and it was always in the back of my head. I was like, it'd be really cool to do a project like that. But I didn't think that I'd ever really get a chance to. And when I met Thrasher, actually, I kind of assumed, because he was in Escape, I was like, that's probably going to be that more kind of post-hardcore thing. And then our music that we've written together has always been more kind of pop leaning than that. But he was the one that introduced me to the guy, so it kind of wound up happening anyway. It's just strange. And like, I've always been like pretty heavily tatted up or whatever. Like I don't know, I got like my hands and neck done when this was in like 2010 or something like that. Like, it's funny to me now being new to the quote unquote scene, because I'll look back and be like, damn, Craig in Escape didn't even have his neck tattooed. And I was singing like Your Body's a Wonderland, like, and shit, like on acoustic, and people, especially back then, they'd look at me and think, oh, this guy's like a screamer or something. It's just never been I just thought it looked cool. And even to the extent of like, I used to think like, man, did I just fuck myself? Because like, there wasn't anybody like who was like a mainstream star that was that tatted up. You know what I mean? And I was trying to do like pops. This was way before like, you know, like the 1D guys and like Bieber and everybody being. Anyways, it's just funny how shit's changed with that. But
no, absolutely. It's like, especially with those guys, like, again, you're talking about, you know, this back, 10 years ago, you're talking about the boy bands like, One Direction, talking about Justin Bieber, always at that point, no tattoos, always clean shaven, just very much of like a clean perception. And as time has gone, especially in the past 10 years, using tattoos as the example, they have gotten so much more of an understanding and so much more of like an acceptance in culture.
It's crazy.
Take a look at the show Ink Master. So many people watch that show, and it's gotten so many people into the idea of tattoos. Myself, I loved watching that show when I was in college, because it came out, I'm like, holy shit, I don't want to stop watching this. It's cool looking at all the artwork they come up with. I don't even have any tattoos, but I want to watch. I'm kind of interested to see what people come up with, and more people are getting those tattoos. And they're becoming more prominent figures, not only in the scene, which they have been for, pretty much ever since the scene was a thing, but throughout pop culture as well. So it's becoming much more of an accepted thing throughout just anywhere you look.
It's crazy, man. And it's really become a staple of even just like pop, it's just wild. Everybody's got face tats and shit. It's just like crazy. But it's cool, man. I mean, it's shit changes, you know what I mean?
Shit changes. Everything has like some sort of cyclical nature to it, and it just makes sense where at some point in time when tattoos are, first were starting to become a thing, even in the, early 1900s, seen as very taboo, very counterculture. And then as time progressed, rock and metal started to become even bigger, became a thing, became bigger, 70s, 80s, talking about, thrash metal coming in. Tattoos were starting to become a staple to the counterculture. Now it's just, they're a staple everywhere. So, seeing someone with all the tattoos like you do, even for someone that, maybe has never seen before, takes a look, you've kind of like, oh, this guy might actually be one of those unclean vocals. Similar to, again, I'll use the example you kind of brought up, especially with Bring the Horizon, Ollie Sykes, because I, take a look at him, very
and he was heavily tatted back early too, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you always see the knife. Now he's got like the feather coming down on the side of his face. Like he's got it all.
Makes sense though, because well, you know what's funny? Like my dad, R.I.P. always used to say to not get a tattoo, but it was because he said it would make it easier for the cops to like find me. And I was like, Dad, what kind of advice is that? He's like, if you ever get in trouble, whatever, like. But in my line of work, it's like you want to be easily identified, right? So luckily for me, I'm not a criminal. I'm a singer. You know what I mean? I'm like, cool. But I feel like that's what it comes down to. And even like with the influx of like all the kind of more like punk style now and everything, it's like it's very like peacocky and like how can I stand out, and like I'm gonna have a green mohawk and like a unicorn on my face or something. And it's like it is good branding. You know what I mean? Even like me being on The Voice with like my shaggy hair and glasses and it's like it was very like that's like the guy, and that's like my new thing from a performance like perspective is like if you were just on stage like facing an audience for an hour, and like if you get off stage and they don't recognize you when you're walking around, like you've failed. You know what I mean? Like it's like and for every single band member, like obviously for the front man, that's my thing, and a lot of people are gonna be but it's like I'm like, no, like I don't care if you were playing tambo up there, if you had like a triangle, like if you like that, you have an hour to make a visual impression on somebody. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that doesn't even just speak to just, you as a singer, you as a musician, or anybody in that room. That speaks to anything that everyone ever does. When you take a look at what you did on The Voice, it's who else in The Voice was going to look anything like you when it comes to, shaggy hair, glasses, but especially all the tattoos everywhere. No one's going to end up looking like you. But when people tuned into The Voice back in 2014, when you were on it, it was, you came up, they didn't need to have that nameplate underneath to have people know who you were. People would, it's like, for the first time people would ever watch it or see you perform, they would need just to know, who is this person? What's his name? That kind of stuff.
For sure.
But the second time you came on, that wasn't going to be needed from those people because you were going to be the most instantly recognizable person from all tattoos, from your appearance. It was going to be something where no one was going to miss out on it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's just, it's like, it's kind of funny. I feel like, I don't know, but then, there's other waves too, right? Where people do take a more kind of like, I don't know, I feel like we've had phases in music where it's, you have the people that look really like the David Bowies in like the 70s where everybody looked, but kind of everybody looked kind of wild back then. So even the fans at the concert. And then you have other waves where it's like, I don't know, like a band like Weezer or something. They look kind of like normal guys, you know what I mean? So it's like you can kind of play it. You can play it any way. It's all like entertainment, you know what I mean? But
and I mean, this can kind of speak to anybody as well with anything they do. And even when it comes to any business, personal brand, whatever it might be, you can present yourself in any way as long as you make it somewhat memorable. Use Weezer as an example. Yeah, they looked, completely normal, especially when you take a look at any press photo they ever done. These look like guys that are going to be like your neighbors living on some like art, like you're living next to in an arts district in any major city in the United States.
Right.
But you still instantly know who those guys are. Even myself, when I'm at music festivals, like I do something similar where I will always wear something the same that's like throughout all 4 days or 3 days because it's the piece that someone recognized from. When I was at Blue Ridge, I wore a Minnesota Vikings hat the whole time, and people recognize me because there's tens of thousands of people there, but you see that hat and it's me.
That's sick. So something I can remember from my college days, like they used to, it's like a performance school, whatever, like a vocal major, and so a lot of the stuff in the workshops we would do were more centered towards like music theater and jazz and classical and whatever. So I would have to kind of pick and choose from what can I apply to rock and pop from the stuff, right? But the one cool thing is that they were talking about going for auditions, I guess, for like musical theater, and they were just talking about like it's cool to take a picture of yourself for every audition and then like make sure that you wear like that same color anytime you get in front of that casting director again. So you don't wear the exact same thing, but just like, you know what I mean? Just anything to kind of help yourself just be remembered a little more, which I thought was kind of cool. So
that's just kind of playing with different visual cues at the same point. But that's incredibly intelligent. That might be something that people might even take forward with their professional lives that are listed.
Even like just any normal, even any more like normal job opportunity, right?
Yeah, it's like instead of, you're going to end up wearing, business casual or business attire clothes, whatever it might be.
Right.
But it's like, make sure the shirt might be the exact same color. It doesn't have to be the same shirt, but if it's the same color.
Pants or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Like maybe it's the same color pocket square, just something. Some kind of pop, you know what I mean?
And then like on your LinkedIn profile, make sure whatever the thing is, whether it's, like Matt said, the pocket square, or if it's, the same color shirt, make sure that that's there, because all of a sudden that's something that these people are going to end up referencing as okay, who is this person? All of a sudden they see that, they instantly know who it is, and they have some sort of connection to what you've done with that visual cue.
Yeah. See that? We're helping people get hired in the workforce. It's amazing.
Literally talking, first music, then, what your story, then all of a sudden talk about tattoos, talking about,
branding.
You
need to get a pocket square. That's, kids, if you're listening.
Well, shoot. I mean, pretty much after this episode, I might have to run out and get a pocket square because I don't have one. I'm gonna need to make this happen, man.
Dude, it's the pocket square is gonna be the scene must-have accessory of 2020-22. Man, come on.
I wouldn't be surprised though, because we saw the resurgence of pop punk. We saw the resurgence of that style. You never know what's gonna happen. I mean, the next step literally could be all of a sudden pocket squares, then everyone's wearing black again, everyone's doing the guy liner thing. We go full emo in 2023 after that. It could be a thing. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be kind of here for it, because hell, I'm good with bringing it back.
Why not, man? Well, cool, dude. I like it.
I'm a fan of it. And kind of just jumping back into the whole entire name thing as well. For the specific, you told the whole entire story about, how you got in the band. I know that was what's the proper way? The influence for the new name of what it is. So how did you guys land on? Because I know at first when I saw the name change, it came across like a press release on October 15th. It came across as Rain City, and then all of a sudden a couple weeks later came through as Rain City Drive. So how'd you guys land on that name specifically? And then what was the reason to add Drive at the end of it?
Yeah, for sure. So give a little bit of backstory. Me and the guys have been brainstorming names for the band since that Australia tour. So that was like the month after we met. It was sort of a idea of like, it was a new lineup officially. It was the kind of thing where it's just like, it might be cool to change the name. Like there was some, like certain feelings about the name, like, yeah, maybe we could probably have something better than this, and just made sense for a lot of reasons. I know we've gone into it before, but so Rain City was a name out of like hundreds of names. I'm telling you, dude, I brainstormed all of us, but I know me personally, at least I had like a thing in notes in my phone that's just scrolling, just like a billion different names. I was just like, I don't ever want to have to try to brainstorm a band name again. And it's so tough, like coming up with, that's usually like the first thing you do. It's so weird to name something that already exists. You know what I mean? It's like, because it's really like, Bring Me is a great example of like, if I was like, oh, the band's Bring Me the Horizon, I'd be like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? But you get used to it because you associate it with the music, and then it's great because they're great. So anyways, long story short, I had this huge list of names. Rain City was on that list because I was trying to think of things that I could relate back to where we met and how we met. And a nickname for Manchester is Rainy City. That's what Google tells me. So I was like, okay, let's just do Rain City. I think that would be kind of cool. I kind of forgot about that idea. It didn't ever really get much attention. And then we were sending in a bunch of ideas to the label, and I eventually just sent in that whole list. And that was actually one, JT from Hawthorne Heights actually has been helping us with some stuff, and that was a name that he saw and was like, I think that one's probably a pretty good idea. And that was like on everybody's list from the label, so it made us kind of reconsider it. And again, it's just like, we really like our origin story and how we met. It's so serendipitous, and it kind of makes us feel like it was just meant to be. And like, it's this, for us, the story, and probably a lot of bands can relate to this, but it's like, we're just that band where like it never goes the way it's supposed to, and it's never just like a straight easy path. There's always like, well, you thought it was going to be this, but like your tour bus is only going to have 2 wheels, and you know what I mean, or we're like whatever it is, like, you know, it's just like you really need I don't know, it's just everything's going to break, everything's going to go wrong, and you just have to like keep saying like, no, we're just going to keep going, we're going to keep doing it. So that tour is a great example for the guys of just like, we don't have a lead singer anymore. What the hell are we going to do with this? And I'm like, I got to try to learn all this stuff. And it just came together, and you just kind of keep going. And so it's kind of like an empowering thing to us. So it was Rain City for a hot minute. And then, you know, basically, I think the name could have been vetted a little bit better, and that we just didn't have that, you know, clear path of like, no one else has ever thought of this. It's like so obviously Manchester, Rainy City. There's also like Portland's Rain City, Seattle's Rain. There's a bunch of Rain City. And so with that, there's other brands, there's other bands, there's other whatever. So we wanted to add something that would make it totally unique, even so we could just have like a clean, like raincity.com, and everything is just at Rain City Drive. Right. So, that was kind of the thinking. And then just the word drive in general. I kind of like that it's a verb. It kind of is more actiony. It paints a better. I actually wound up liking the name better, to be honest with you. If to me, it's a little more colorful, and it's like, it's cool to say RCD, but just drive could mean obviously like driving, but it's also, I think more so it's kind of like that drive of like that determination, you know what I mean, kind of factor. So
I kind of see what you mean, like that drive, determination, perseverance through all the crap that you guys have gone through, because like you said, nothing's really ever gone right. And when I first heard the name Rain City too, because like what you end up saying, you know, there's other places that are also known as Rain City, like Portland, Seattle. My first thought was, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that this was kind of like a Seattle connection here. So that was my first thought. And then when all of a sudden the second one, you know, happened, all of a sudden a couple weeks later, comes out with Rain City Drive. Not gonna lie, when I heard the drive aspect, I'm like, this kind of makes a little more sense even to me. I don't know why, just the way it flows, Rain City Drive, especially with your music, has more of, you know, that rock, post-hardcore, but also those pop elements in there. Yeah, the drive kind of adds a little more of that pop element feel to the name itself. So it kind of even, you know, starts to brand itself a little bit in that way from an emotional standpoint, at least in my mind.
No, it's great. Yeah, no, and it's like it was such a bummer to have to like tweak it last minute, and I was like, fuck, what are we gonna do? We got to come up, you know, it's like, all right guys, put your thinking hats on again. I'm like, we've been brainstorming for the past 2 years, like, what, you know what I mean? So it's like, but I was holding on to hope that we would find something that we actually liked even better, which is what happened. And it seems like most of the fans are on board with it too, which is cool. And you know, again, it's like, what's in a name? I think people will hear the record and like the record and like our stuff, and they'll just like the name. But also, one thing I forgot as well is like my main checklist with it was, right, again, tie in with our origin story, how we met, which the name does. But I also thought it'd be cool to tie in with the branding that we built on the last record, you know, because obviously we put a lot into that album cycle, and that's how people think of us. So I was like, it'd be cool if it was like a song name or something that kind of ties in back with that. So that's why I thought the rain was cool, because obviously on To Better Days we have the cloud above us. So it's just like, we can keep that branding, and that's another reason why I came up with that idea back in the day. I was like, I think it'd be cool to kind of like have that tie in and make sense to people. So when they see it, they're like, and especially when you see, you know, Rain City Drive now associated with that last LP, it's like, oh, cool, got it. You know what I mean? And like, there's some, like we kind of planned it out to work, you know, so it's good.
And I think one of the other big things you said, especially at the beginning of that explanation, was with the bands, you know, you had the newer lineup, especially with you in there as well. Mm-hmm. You want to come up with a name change because it's kind of, you know, a little bit of a different style, especially from what previously would happen with Johnny. So when you had To Better Days and you have the new record as well, you're going to want a little bit more of this cohesiveness and maybe a little more of a better branding with the core that you have now. And it got me thinking back to, you know, think about the guy like Mark Tremonti and the two other guys that are not Miles Kennedy and Alter Bridge, because they used to be in Creed, all three of those guys. Could you imagine if, you know, they would have broken up and all of a sudden here comes Miles Kennedy with those same three guys and they called themselves Creed? They probably would be nowhere near as big as they are now as Alter Bridge, because that's a brand new identity from different sound, and you associate Alter Bridge with the guitar work of Mark Tremonti,
Yeah,
those soaring
man.
vocals of Miles Kennedy. So it does make a lot of sense, but in a little bit of a different way with you guys, because the music wasn't changing. It was, you had, different little bit of a lineup change, but a lot of the musical direction might have still been rather similar. So you want to keep that flowing without really fully disrupting everything, but not making it seem like it's totally the exact same with the name change.
Totally, yeah, because that's like the truth of it, right? Is like it really, from the last record, it's the same band, and I think there's going to be a good through line from that record to this one, the same as we wanted to keep a through line from Beautiful Death to Better Days, you know what I mean? For ourselves, for the fans, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and obviously, just kind of. I understand a lot of, just to go into a little bit, I know a lot of the fan base, and there is meaning for people in the name slaves, and like slaves to your addictions and substances, and even though current members of the band have struggled with that themselves, not just Johnny, it's like we just wanted something that was overall more empowering and felt kind of like our story a bit more. So that's the number one thing. There's also just a weirdness to the history and the connotation of that word, that it's like, yeah, like people don't want to wear it on their t-shirt or whatever, or like it'll make fans be like, oh, I don't know if I want to come to that. And like I totally get that. Me being an outsider, you know what I mean? I was the last person to jump into this. I was like, it's kind of a weird name, you know what I mean? And so, but I was like, well, let me get in and see what the story is, see what the definite, like, see how the fan base is reacting or whatever. And it's like, when you're in that little bubble, of course, everybody knows, like, it was, there was never any ill intent or whatever, but you're also dealing with, like, nobody in the band, like, came up with that. It was nobody's, you know what I mean? Current people. And it's just like, bring it to anybody outside and they're just like, oh, that's, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's the last thing you want for a band name, bro. And like, I just want it to be a thing where it's like, everybody's welcome. Everybody feels good about it. You feel cool about being like, this is the band I'm listening to. Sick. I'm going to see them. Oh yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, that's like, the name can't be a barrier for entry. It's just like whack. You know what I mean? And so, that's something that I always felt like, I was like, let's get going on this name change. You know what I mean? If we can. And so, like I said, we started brainstorming it super, super early. So that's like one thing. There is also the fact of like Johnny's reputation is fucking bonkers, bro. Like it's still, people still on tours will call up and try to boycott the show, and it's like, because you know what I mean? Like it's like the name itself, in my opinion, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but in my opinion, the name Slaves is whack. For, you know what I mean? Like, and you can print that, do whatever. It's just like, it's just not great. You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm not saying it doesn't have meaning to people and everything, but it's also like, why would you want to be a slave to anything? If we're all a slave to something, it's like, that's not cool, bro. I want to do something more positive with what I'm doing. So that's number one thing. Number two, Johnny's reputation is crazy, and it will still hold you back even if he's not even in the fucking band anymore. And the third thing that I didn't realize, and I don't know if I was really being like honest with myself, is that it takes a lot to step in and fill shoes. And I was proud of myself with how well I've done, but there's always that, thing in the back of your head where it's just like, it doesn't really feel like yours, and I think Colin was the only guy that had been there from the very start. And so he's been there the whole time. And I always give him such props for like holding this thing together, right? Until like we could all hop on. And by the time I met the guys, like they had been dealing with such bullshit with different member changes and all this drama that like those four guys were really solid, and they had to be, you know what I mean? To like have made it that far. And then I was pretty easy too. And then it was just like, oh, now this is just easy for everyone. But yeah, it's just like, I think it feels really good. I can speak for myself and for the other guys, except Colin, maybe. I mean, I know he's happy about it too, but he's kind of always, but even, Zach, Felipe, like the last record we did, To Better Days, was the first LP that they played on too. And so I really see it with us, especially. It's like, we really feel like, oh damn, this is really ours now. And you don't think about like all these memories that like you weren't there for, and all this stuff that happened before your time, and maybe stuff that like you don't want to take ownership of and you don't want to take credit for, and you're like, I can't vouch for that. So it's like, it feels really good, man. Yeah, I don't know.
Say, even to bring a different from a fan perspective, couple of things on that when it does come to the name, because when I first read through especially with Slaves, what the original meaning was behind the name, like I understood the concept of the meaning behind it, where you wanted to go, where the band wanted to go with it, but I do understand what you're talking about. You know, there are a lot of negative connotations from it, especially when it comes to American history. So it's going to bring forward a completely different mindset for a lot of different people. And yeah, no one's really going to want to wear something like that on their shirt. I mean, it can be sometimes, shirts can be really weird, especially with names. And sometimes people wear them all the time. I mean, hell, Ice Nine Kills. That's a shirt I'm wearing right now. It's like that name is kind of wacky, but I mean, I love wearing it because why the hell not? It's a great band.
But it's
man. It's a great name.
It's kind of like a unique thing where it's not, like you don't think of anything else. It's like oh, those are kind of cool buzzwords to kind of stick out, but it's not like, yeah, it's like I just wasn't trying to take ownership for a word that has like such a weighted history to it. Even if you just Google it, it's like it's not a positive thing. You know what I mean? So like, again, everybody's in their own bubble and they're like, yeah, I think this is cool, but it's like, I'm not doing like a door-to-door like explainer of what, you know what I mean? It should just be a name that's like, oh, that seems cool and whatever. So that was like another thing with the new name, Rain City Drive too. It's like, I wanted something that seemed kind of like cool, but I didn't want something that was like too sad boy or too emo or too kind of negative. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to keep it open because I think like, us as a group, we want to be able to do a lot of different kinds of music, and I feel like the last record was overall kind of a bummer because I think it was, I think most music in the scene kind of is. First of all, that's kind of the business that we're in, and I know me personally, like I had a lot of stuff to get off my chest that I just felt like was kind of me being in more of like a dark place or something, but one of my big things is like I don't want to have to be sad to make a record, and so I tried to show all of us did like different sides that are maybe a little more upbeat and a little more happy and optimistic. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm being overly optimistic by calling that. I don't think the new record is optimistic at all, but it's at least it's kind of like about death in general, but it's super happy, but it does have songs that are more pop and more just kind of upbeat and energetic and a little less like depressive or something, you know what I mean? And so I could see a world where it's like we do some songs that are just like everything's great in the future. I mean, I don't know if that'll happen, but I want a name that's like leaves that door open, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and a name like Grand City Drive does leave that door open. The other thing that you did bring up that I completely had forgotten about but makes total sense is the reputation of Johnny himself, because when it comes to even think about a band that has had some sort of a member change where that member change was not under the best terms, sometimes it's really hard for that band to just move on from that without having some sort of reminiscence from it. Even using one of Johnny's previous projects as well with Dance Gavin Dance, I think they have definitely moved on from that, but a lot of that has to do with how they have grown and how they have basically rework themselves with Tillian as the lead vocalist. Even go to Escape the Fate as well. I think maybe with that first record that they came out with post Ronnie Radke, especially with what had happened with Ronnie, a lot of people were thinking about that. And then all of a sudden he comes out with his stuff with Falling in Reverse. And now you see that split happen there. So it's kind of, it's good on that end for them. When it comes to you guys, I mean, even when I first found out about the band, I didn't even, and I noticed that Johnny Craig was a previous member of the band. I didn't even think about that because I was listening to Better Days. I'm like, oh, Johnny used to be this band? Oh, shoot. Okay. And I didn't really think anything of it because, I was like 3 or 4 songs deep. I was going to talk to a friend. I'm just like, this song fucking slaps. Oh my God. And then I found out, I'm like, yeah, we don't need to go into any more of that.
Totally.
But it does make a lot of sense to, maybe even like use the name change as something to really take the band away from some of those other perceptions that people might have. Not that, but Rain City Drive, I mean, the initials, you got RCD. That kind of flows really nicely when you say it. RCD,
thanks,
or like RC Drive, whatever you want to put with it. Because there's a lot of bands that kind of Escape Fate, ETF, it could be a thing.
Yeah,
We Came as Romans. I always end up saying We Car at some point because I'm like, that just kind of sounds cool. So using that, you can, especially when it comes to a marketing standpoint, branding standpoint, it allows for a lot more creativity and a lot more maneuverability with the name itself and with the initials.
Totally, man. Yeah, no, again, I'm just it's been in the works basically since I met the guys, and I'm just so happy to see it like finally play out. I'm happy that if you go to the Spotify now, it's like you see the two separate pages. And another thing that's cool too is like, it feels good to have that clean Spotify where it's like we started in 2019, the five of us, right? And obviously we were building on this great supportive fan base that has stayed with us, and we're super appreciative of that. But the flip side of that is like, it could have tanked. It could have been like, who's this guy from The Voice that has no business doing this shit with you guys, and it just like sucked or something, you know what I mean? So it's like, I like to think of it as like, instead of like us, the five of us from 2014, and it's like, this is where they are. I'm like, no, check out what we've accomplished in the past year. Like, yes, we started with this fan base that's incredible, but we more than doubled that on the last record, you know what I mean? And it's just going to keep going up from here. So it's like, it just feels good on a lot of different levels, man. And again, just like, I'm just happy to take ownership of and like wrap my head around things that like I understand and that I've been a part of, and like, it's, you know what I mean? Like I can only vouch for me at the end of the day. So I'm just like, oh yeah, like this is cool. I feel like comfortable with this, so it's good.
Well, especially seems like you're taking, especially with you using it because you use a slave name for the last record for To Better Days.
Yeah.
And with, basically brand new Spotify starting with a clean slate. What I kind of think what you guys even did with that was you're showing, the new side of the band. It's like, okay, this is, now the five of us. This is the connective part of this, how we all connect with it. And we're moving forward to the next chapter, as every single album is like another chapter for the band. But you're sort of taking the positive connections to what had been built on in the past, especially with the previous record, with the fans that have been with the band since 2014. So
yeah,
it's a more natural progression, especially when the name change was announced. It's like, people knew that this was coming. This wasn't a surprise by any means. So this was already expected, and the expectations were there that, okay, this is going to end up happening, and it's not going to be really any issue due to the fact that we are all aware of what's going on.
Yeah, for sure, and it's cool too that the fans stuck with us. I know that, and like from the announcement to the actual thing happening was pretty delayed, and it was kind of delayed for good reasons though. Like we signed a new deal with the label, which like that was an unexpected thing that kind of took a little while to get together. Obviously, like not obviously, I say it, it's obvious to me. We're always in the business of like, we know everything before everybody else does, right? So it's like, and that was so funny the last record, because there was, understandably so, there were like a lot of doubters and haters and whatever, and it was like, I feel like, I knew it was going to work out before even I really knew, because I'm just like, I'm a son of a bitch. I'll probably pull this off. You know what I mean? Like, I've been known to do some crazy shit. It'll probably work. And then it worked out. And then like the band knew. And then the five of us were like, this is going to be sick. And we were sitting on all these songs that nobody had heard. And then Heavier comes out. And most people were like, this is actually pretty good. All right. And then the next song was like, damn, this one's pretty good too. And we're like, oh, this songs are good. Like, at least we think, right? But so it's like, I feel the same way again on this next record, only I was honestly weird feeling like people were rooting for us this time. I was like, do we need that like bad energy? Like, do we need a chip on our shoulders to like really kill it or whatever? But no, so long story short again, which should be the name of this episode, is that the new record, not obviously, is totally finished, mastered, and it sounds great. We worked with Eric Ron and Matt Squire on the production side, and yeah, it sounds sick, man. I think there's a new single coming out like maybe the end of January. I want to do as many singles as we can. I know we did a bunch last time, and that really worked out well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm super proud of the new record. We all worked really hard on it, and I think it's as much as I love To Better Days, and I always will. Like I definitely know that we leveled up in a lot of areas. So yeah.
I understand. Well, now, Matt, I got to ask you this question, and it's specific for something I talk about a lot on different podcasts and a lot when I do live streams with a bunch of people that follow all the stuff that I do. And just, we talk about this a lot, and it comes to what you just said with the new record, wanting to release as many singles as possible. What's your mindset around doing something like that, especially with the way that people consume music today on streaming services?
Well, I just think putting out singles is great because, yeah, you can pitch it to a playlist every time. You can pitch it to radio every time potentially. And I do think we're living in like a singles for music in general. It's very single driven. Now, being in a rock band is really cool because people really do still listen to albums, and that's great. And going back to Bring Me in Sempiternal, that was the thing that struck me was, wow, this album is just really strong. It's a true like body of work. And I always say even if that was the last thing that they had put out, they'd still be doing pretty well in my eyes. They wouldn't be as big, but they'd be selling out like smaller venues still on that record because it's a great record. It has a big feel to it, and so super important for us to deliver a good record. But yeah, I love putting out a bunch of singles because almost like, maybe not selfishly is the word, but it's just like I love the record so much and I want everybody to listen to every song. And I know that if we put every song out as a single, everybody will listen to them. And I'm like, if we put out like 2 singles and then we just now it's your job, like this is your homework. Go listen to like did you listen to the full fit? Did you listen to the last song? Did you make it all the way? You know what I mean? But I know if we just give it like here's 3 minutes of your time every with a video, like people will at least our fans will listen to every song. So I kind of like that aspect of it too.
Everything in culture today, it's a little bit more palatable for people. Like, okay, so you have a 12-song album and you release every single one of the singles at some point. It's a lot more palatable for people to take, 3-4 minutes at a time once a month than it is to take, let's say, 45, 46 minutes at one time. Even though a lot of people in the rock and metal scene will still listen to albums. I mean, I still love listening to albums because for me, they tell a story from top to bottom, especially when you listen to them. Because you guys track those and kind of put those on the track list in a specific way for us to really feel the emotion, and we can really dive deep. And that's why, again, an album like Sempiternal I think is absolutely fantastic as well. Which probably after this interview, I'll probably end up starting the turntable up again, and I'll put that record on. And I'm just gonna have a good fucking time. Even one other thing too is with your style of music and with kind of, especially after the single Cutting It Close, just hearing kind of a little bit more of the pop elements inside of it as well, especially with the way that pop music and pop fans end up consuming music. It's a lot of more single driven than even rock and metal. It allows you guys to really expand the whole entire fan base of the band beyond just the rock fans and the post-rock fans. It allows you to go a little more of that pop culture side, and especially, and you can even use this with yourself as well, because again, a lot of people might know you still from The Voice. We talked about that earlier. The tattoos, everything. So if all of a sudden you guys pop up on like more of a pop playlist, people might go check out the video and all of a sudden they're going to recognize who you are and they're going to start diving deeper into your stuff. It allows for so much more maneuverability, especially with the style of music that you guys are working with.
Yeah, that's always been so cool for me. Like, The Voice viewership is just massive, bro. Like, it was so big. I think it was like 15 million people, like 3 times a week or something. That's it's just crazy. So like the fact that I still have people being like, hold up, like this is my favorite band, and this is that guy I voted for, and like that must be so cool. It must be so bizarre. It must be so cool. I'm just picturing like, me watching The Voice, let's say, and like, oh, that guy's really sick, and like actually being involved enough to like vote them or whatever, and then like, years later they're like singing in some rock band that I like. I would just be like so satisfied. I'd be like, everything's right in the world, like this dude found a thing and I like whatever. So yeah, that's really cool, and it is a huge viewership. So like I run into that all the time. There's people who are kind of connected to both, which is sick for sure.
And especially because you're still seeing it happen today, you can still maximize on that because it's an opportunity to use. It's something that you guys are able to use that almost no other band is going to be able to use, especially when it comes to more of that pop culture sense. Again, 15 million people 3 times a week. Yeah, you're still going to get a lot of the same people, but 15 million people 3 times a week, that might be a total of 25, 30 million people overall that may have seen you on The Voice that still remember the image of you on The Voice, especially the tattoos. And all of a sudden they see you show up in a music video or on a playlist. They hear The Voice and they're like, oh my God, is that Matt? okay, now I gotta go check this out more.
Yeah.
It just adds so much more to it because you never know, especially with the internet. Well, all of a sudden, one thing catches fire, one thing goes viral,
True.
and then everyone knows about it. Hell, you might be able to make some sort of weird TikTok challenge out of it, and all of a sudden, everyone between the ages of 13 and 21 knows who Rain City Drive is.
Yeah, that'd be sick, man. I'll just say too on the new album, it's really cool in terms of some of the more poppy stuff and also kind of some heavier stuff for us too. I think it was really a really great process for us to just, like, if this is all our bags of tricks, and just like empty everything out on the table and just like try to fit in as much as we can of ourselves. I know for me personally, like feeling a little more secure in my role, and like again the development for me on this one is like this is my main passion in my life now, is this band. It went from being like I said earlier, like a really cool part of what I do, and I'm like, and I'm also still doing this and this, and I'm like, this is my main bag, so I'm trying to get as much of myself into these songs as I can. And it's great because there is a precedent even before I joined of doing stuff that does have that pop influence, that does have some more like acoustic influence. But I would just say that we kind of leaned into a lot of different areas, and like all of us, and felt kind of free because we all like different kinds of music. And there's still an emphasis on, I think the first thing is like we all have to like it, and if there's something that like somebody hates, it's like, well, we don't want to do that, make somebody miserable or something, right? Because we don't all like exactly the same stuff. Or maybe you like to listen to it, but you just don't want to do it as an artist. And then there's this other thing of like, well, what can we pull off as a band? And I don't know, my hope for the group is that we just sound like what we sound like, and that's it. And this is, as much as we don't want to alienate anybody that's been with us, it's like it's also an opportunity to be something new in some ways. And I mean, again, it's the same exact band as it was the last record with a different name for sure. But with that being said, I think we're just kind of just stretching out a little bit, and I think every record will just stretch out a little. We're just like, I just want to give us permission to do things. That's all. And I think if you ask for permission, certainly in the rock world, the answer is no. It's like, please, can we have a little bit of this other genre of these? It's like, no, you know what I mean? Like, please, Sam, just a little more trap hat. How about some auto tune? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Like fuck you. But so I think like you just have to do it. Which I know you brought up Ronnie earlier. Like, he's a great example of like, he's like, I'm gonna auto tune the fuck out of this verse just to piss people off, and it's just like. And it only takes doing it once, and then people are used to it. And it's like, now he can do that again whenever he wants, and it's never going to be weird. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm kind of a big believer in like just like not asking for permission and just doing things. And hopefully the brand is just like good music at the end of the day.
I think that's the best you can hope for. Another great example to bring up for that, again, we've talked about multiple times, use Bring Me the Horizon, because Count Your Blessings, Sempiternal, what they did in Amo, the post-human survival horror EP, like, look at how different all of these records are. But when you listen, you still think of Bring Me the Horizon, and you still think of pop music, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Amo. But like post-human survival horror, I'm like, holy shit, what the hell they do here? This is fucking awesome. Yeah. So when it comes down to quality of music, that's really where you guys have to sit in. And a couple other things. One, now this being your main gig, it's like this is what you're heavily focused on with the most important thing. It's going to end up lending you time to just focus in on some other things within the band. It's like, okay, what do we want to try here? Especially with the chemistry you have going with the band, the comfort that you have going. There's going to be things you're more willing to try and more willing to test out, because, hell, what's the worst thing that can happen if you're writing something, you try and experiment with something, and it doesn't work out? Well, then you've got an example of something that's just not going to work out. It's kind of like Thomas Edison making a light bulb. He didn't fail 5,000 times. He failed 400. He just found 4,999 ways how not to make a light bulb.
Exactly.
Just kind of that same route. And the name change itself, it does even lend some expectations that something different might come up here. But if you guys are able to include some of the exact same kind of stuff that you did in a similar tone and a similar vibe
totally,
you
yeah.
done some of the previous records. I don't feel like you're going to alienate, the older fans, but you're going to allow newer fans come in. Because again, even listening to Better Days, like there's a lot of stuff I liked off, and all of a sudden Cutting It Close comes out. There's some pop elements there that I'm not necessarily too keen to personally.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I still can tell it's you guys. I can still tell that the quality craftsmanship of the writing process is there, because when I was going through it deep, like I was able to follow along with the song in terms of the emotional storytelling that was going on there. Even watching the music video, like this makes a lot of sense going through here, and even some of those pop elements that were brought in there from an emotional connection standpoint. Even though for me, I'm like, man, I kind of still like I like the heavier stuff, but this all still makes sense, even from a mine where I'm like, I just want breakdowns.
Yeah. Well, and so it's cool again, like the new record. It's like I feel like we pushed for sections that were more like double time or like upbeat, or we pushed for like faster tempos, or like I feel like that's a big thing in the genre. It's just like heavy, mid tempo, whatever. It's like I wanted more stuff with energy for like live and shit, and then like some kind of more breakdown moments. With me being like, what the hell am I gonna sing over breakdowns? I just sing some like poppy shit over it, whatever. And then like, I don't know. It's like there's songs that like it's the lowest the guys have tuned down, but it's like a really poppy song too. And I don't know. It's weird, man. I get so tired of like talking about genres with people, especially in the industry, because I think they're all, especially knowing my background, they're like worried that I'm like just gonna go full Bieber on everybody or something. And I'm like no, it's like it's a rock band, like always gonna be a rock band, very like guitar oriented, and that's even my solo stuff has always been like that. But it's like when I say like pop, I just mean, or when I say alt, or when I say crossover, like I just mean that I think the band could be a lot bigger than it is. And I'm kind of thinking about, from like the 60s into like, the early 90s, let's say, like rock music was just massive. There was years there where like that was pop music, and really it was because like the greatest minds and the biggest stars in music were playing in that arena, right? And so like I'm just trying to write like for our bigger songs, our bigger singles, like there's one in particular I can think of where it's like I think we're just trying to write as if like go back and listen to like an Aerosmith song or something. It's like they're just massive hits. And I'm not saying it sounds anything like that. It's just like it's like writing as if a rock song could be like a big smash. You know what I mean? Like that everybody loves, because like that's how it used to be. So just really, and I think it does come down to the writing. I mean, obviously production is important, but a hit is a hit, and if you can write a great song, like you can do it, and you can do it just acoustic. You could do like any kind of genre. You could do country, you could do whatever, and it's just still going to be a smash. So like I'm just trying to write really big songs, but like with the rock band, and hopefully we'll do that.
Again, totally understandable, and it's gonna be something that when you start releasing more singles off of this record, it's something that we're gonna end up having to look out for, because it kind of is like it's kind of like Christmas morning every single time, because you see the presents wrapped under the tree, unless it's a new bike and your dad wrapped it. It literally looks like a bike just wrapped up in wrapping paper. No, it's like a bunch of box out there. You don't know what's in them. So
Yeah, true.
every time a single comes out, you're gonna have to open up a brand new present, open up and be like, and just be surprised and just enjoy what it is, because you never know. It could be something that's gonna be on that heavier downside. It could be something that's more up tempo. It could be something more on a pop.
Yeah.
It could be all over the place, but it's like Christmas morning. You want to open them all. You want to play with everything that's in there. You want to have everything that's in there. So why not just enjoy it?
Yeah, dude. No, and that's definitely a good mindset to have, and like because it's true. Like people really aren't going to know. Like you're gonna go through the track listing, and like hopefully it has a good flow to it. But it's like there is a bit of everything, and so even if there's a song where you're like, oh, that's a little too poppy for me or something, that's like the next one won't be. You know what I mean? And it's just like I don't know. I'm super proud of it. I feel like lyrically it's really, really strong for me as well, which like that's the thing that I probably care the most about, and I'm like the most hard on myself about. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to reactions from that as per usual. Yeah.
And you'll start getting more reactions when the next single comes out. I think you said sometime later in January of 2022, correct?
January, yeah.
And then I'm not going to ask you like when the record it'll be like fully out, because I mean, if you're talking about releasing more and more singles, it's like, okay, that might not even be a thing. Let's just focus on the next single. Let's just focus on unwrapping the next present, not trying to be like that one kid on Christmas who will just rip through everything in like 5 minutes, be like, cool, and then just leave it there. No.
Exactly.
Unwrap everything, look at it, play with it for a little while and enjoy.
That's right, dude. Hell yeah. Is there anything that you wanted to ask me that we didn't kind of touch on?
Not really, because usually I always just go through this conversation based out, and whatever comes up is whatever comes up. And this was honestly one of the more insightful conversations I think I've ever had, especially when we started talking about the whole marketing side of things.
Oh, cool.
Just
okay,
jumping
great,
into
man.
it. I mean, there was a period of time where I think you may have talked for like 5 minutes straight, and I'm just sitting here and I'm just like mesmerized at everything that's happened. I'm like, I don't want Matt to stop talking. This is fucking fantastic.
Okay,
just keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, I've been like replaying. I was just like, I know he said it was a conversation. I should have just let him ask me questions. We could push this back if we need to. I want to make sure you got to ask me everything. So, all right, cool.
No, dude, you were fantastic on this. You're probably one of my favorite guests of all time doing something like this. Man. So there will be one last question I want from you, and it'll be something I always end it with. So whenever I get a chance to end these podcasts, the one thing I like to do to whoever my guest is, I would like them to give them a chance to say anything they want to say, plug whatever they want to plug, promote whatever they want to promote at the end. So if you want to take that opportunity, Matt, floor is yours.
Well, yeah, again, thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you for having me so much. This was a really great interview for me. If you want, please check out the new single by Rain City Drive called Cutting It Close, produced by Mr. Eric Ron. I'm hyped on it, but even more than that, just look out for the rest of the record. I think you guys are really going to like it. Go learn all the lyrics and sing them back to me on a tour coming near you in 2022, baby.
Yeah. So now I'll end this podcast myself with 3 very specific things. First things first. Well, you heard what Matt just said. Cutting It Close is out. There's more singles coming your way. There's one coming your way in January. And yes, the band, Rain City Drive. You're going to want to find this band online. You're going to want to see them perform live. You're going to want to check them out, buy some merch, do all that stuff. So you're going to want to search them online, go to their social media platforms, go to YouTube, watch a Cutting It Close video. You're going to want to buy some merch. You're going to want to stream all the stuff that they have. But I know you guys. You guys want it as easy as possible. You guys don't want to search this up for yourself. So let me take the legwork out for you. Go to the description of the podcast, YouTube, Spotify Podcast, iHeart Radio, and Amazon. You're going to see something that says Find Rain City Drive online. You're going to see links. You're going to see labels. You're going to see everything there for you to click, go, and then like their stuff on social media, subscribe to them on social media, follow all their stuff, subscribe to them on YouTube, check out their music, stream it, download it, buy it, all that kind of stuff, buy some merch. I'm literally taking all the legwork out for you, so
true.
You have no excuse not to, follow along, because
love that.
See them live, check out the next single when it comes out in January, and check out the latest single, Cutting It Close, right now. Now, Matt, here's number 2. So, like I said earlier, this is one of my favorite interviews I've ever done, because this was just full-on conversation-based. I mean, some of the stuff you're talking about, I was mesmerized as all hell, so whenever I have people on the podcast I enjoy having on, I like to make a certain promise. And this promise has come through 100% of the time. And after maybe like 2 minutes of this episode, I'm like, yeah, I have to make this promise happen. So my promise to you is, this is not an if, because if implies possibility of not happening. And no. Promises, that's not the way they work. When is how I start this out, because it implies, yeah, this is happening, but right now time frame is to be determined. So when I get to see Rain City Drive perform live for the first time, because I still have yet to see you guys perform live.
Cool.
Matt, my promise to you is this. First round's on me.
Okay, you got it. All right, dude.
We will make it happen, and I always like to pay up on those debts as well, because it's just fun. It's always a good way to say, hey, you took time out of your day to, to be on the podcast. I want to say thank you. Also, I want to see you perform live, so I'm going to be there as well. So cool. I'll keep an eye out for when you guys go on tour. I'll let everyone know. It's like, hey, Rain City Drive's going on tour. Make sure you go see it. And I will end it on this, because I'm not saying goodbye. I can't say goodbye. I would love to have you back in the podcast again in the future, because this conversation was absolutely incredible. I have a promise to keep, and I will see you perform live. So goodbye is way too final. Nah, Matt, we're ending it with this. See you later.
See you later, bro. Yep. Catch you, man.
Well, folks, that's my interview with Matt from the band Rain City Drive. Again, when it comes to finding Rain City Drive, find all their music online so you can listen to it, stream it, subscribe to them on all their, streaming platforms, whichever one you prefer, and download stuff, buy their stuff, buy some merch, follow them along on social media, subscribe to their YouTube channel, everything around that. You're going to want to be able to do that, because you do not want to miss out on this band, especially with a new record coming out and more singles coming out to boot. So you're going to want to follow along, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. instead of having to look it up, like I said, look at the description of the podcast. I have it all there for you. I already did the legwork. All you got to do is click on the links, like, share, and subscribe. And no, there will be none of those like Facebook links, like the long track stuff. No, I'm taking all those out for you because they don't need to know any of that. Also, please remember to subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like our stuff on social media, subscribe us, follow it, whatever it might be. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify, Podcast, iHeart, and Amazon if you like the audio versions of the podcast as well, because we're going to keep coming up with these incredible guests like Matt McAndrew from Rain City Drive. And I mean, we're not going to stop. This is how we're closing out 2021 with some of the incredible interviews with some of our friends, some of the biggest bands we might have ever had, including Matt McAndrew from Rain City Drive. I mean, we're going to keep coming. We're going to keep putting the pressure on so that 2022 is going to be even better than 2021. And I will end up bringing Matt back on the podcast in 2022 because this was fantastic. I loved every single minute of it. I hope you guys as well, because there was so much here to learn about the history with Rain City Drive, how they came to the name change, what's coming in the future, the idea behind it, the mindset behind it, and also some cool, interesting marketing tips that the band has used throughout their time, that Matt has used throughout his time, that you can use as well, not just from a band's perspective, musical perspective, but like an everyday life perspective. I mean, how cool is that? Pocket Squares. Everybody remember Pocket Squares. Probably one of my favorite podcasts I've done this year, one of my favorite podcasts of all time. And I'm not just saying that because it's Matt. I'm saying it because this was absolutely incredible. I was enthralled every step of the way with this. I can't wait to do this again with Matt, and I cannot wait for you guys to enjoy the music of Rain City Drive. So on that note, that's going to be for me, guys. Congratulations to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes with a big, healthy, and hearty see ya! Yeah! I can't sing as good as Matt.